Today, I don't want to throw a bunch of quotes at you from famous deep thinkers. Instead, I want to tell you a little bit about this deep thinker. And hopefully, what I'm about to tell you will drive home some of the ideals that I've shared with you already. From the age of about 5 to around 25, pretty much everybody that I came across, strangers and family members alike, told me that I was going to be a rock star. And I believed it. I believed it not just because they told me, but because I wanted to believe it. Because that was my dream. And people would stop me on the street and ask me if I was in a band. People at my job would ask me if I was in a band. This was just something that I wanted, and I wanted it so bad, and I believed it so bad that people around me could see it coming off me like smoke. They could see it for me. They could see that that was my destiny. Well, from the age of 20 to 25, I sang in 2 LA and Hollywood-based hard rock / heavy metal bands, one of which had fans all around the globe thanks to the internet. We had fans in Egypt, Africa, Russia, Japan, Germany, France, and a multitude of growing fans right here in California. We played places like the Hard Rock Cafe at Universal City Walk. We played the Whiskey A Go-Go in Hollywood. We were even featured on a documentary about Lincoln Park called Conspiracy Theory. We had t-shirts, posters, stickers, business cards, promo packets, CDs, EPs, and more stuff in the works, all kinds of merch. We designed all of it ourselves, and we paid for it all of ourselves, which is part of why I quit the band. Out of the 4 of us, I was the only one with a wife and kids. And we spent $2,000 on making 4,000 CDs with 2 songs on it. We, on top of that, paid for studio time and paid to have that CD professionally mastered so that it would sound good. So we paid damn near $4,000 for 4,000 CDs with 2 songs on them just to give them away, just to get our name out there. And it worked. But at that time, we were paying for everything ourselves, and it seemed to me like it was financially impossible for me to keep going. So I told myself I couldn't afford it. Now, you've all had your reasons for quitting before the finish line, and I've had mine too. At least, I thought they were reasons. It turns out they were just excuses. And here's exactly what I was talking about, okay? At that point, I had convinced myself that it was financially and economically impossible for me to keep moving forward. But deep down, I knew that that wasn't entirely true, and so I made up excuses. I added things on top of that to convince myself that I needed to quit the band. Things like that my singing wasn't good enough, or that my fans were turned off by my onstage antics, which, for those of you that don't know, I used to be a very violent person towards myself, especially on stage. When we performed, I would bring things on stage that I could smash and break, and then I would use those broken pieces to cut myself and damage myself. You know, you hear people talk about leaving an ounce of blood on the stage. I literally left blood on every single stage that I set foot on. At that point in time, I had a lot of issues that I was working out, and I felt like the only way, time, and place that I could work them out was on the stage, playing music. But you see, I hid behind all these reasons for quitting. I told myself that there was no choice but to quit, when the truth is that deep down, I just was no longer willing to put in the work and effort required to continue pursuing my dream. We had run into several obstacles here and there, and I was letting those obstacles hold me back and bring me down when I shouldn't have. If this is what I really wanted, then I should have kept pushing forward. But it was easier to just come up with a list of excuses why I couldn't or shouldn't. So I had talked myself out of chasing my lifelong dream. I had talked myself out of pursuing what I and many, many other people considered to be my destiny. Now here's another perfect example of talking yourself out of things. When I was 21, I was approached by a man from Universal Records. Not because he wanted to sign my band, but because he wanted to offer me a job as an A&R rep. For those of you that don't know, an A&R rep is the person that decides what bands a major label should or shouldn't sign. Do you know how great that job would have been? The main functions of that job would have been to go to bars and clubs, drink free drinks, mingle with musicians, listen to different bands, hand out business cards, and make connections. And try to get bands that I thought were good brought into the record label before another record label got them. Sounds pretty cushy, right? Well, guess what? I talked myself out of that job too, when I should have been talking myself into it. Instead, I did what I used to do at that time in my life. I came up with a list of reasons why I couldn't do it. I probably could have got my own band signed, and my future would have gone very differently. But you know what I did? I talked myself out of this amazing opportunity with a list of excuses, telling myself that I wasn't good enough, that I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't have a car at that point, and the offices were in downtown LA, and I lived in the South Bay, which is by the beach area. And so I used that as my main excuse, was transportation. But it was bullshit. It was just an excuse. And it wasn't a good enough excuse. So then I rationalized other things, like, what if the bands that I choose to try to get signed are bands that the record label doesn't like? And what if they all laugh at me? Or what if I don't do a good enough job and then I have to crawl back to the job that I just quit to go do this job? But those are ridiculous rationalizations. They were all just excuses. And I want you to understand, I'm not telling you guys this because I regret the choices that I made. You see, I spent my time regretting my choices. Those choices, along with many, many other choices that I made. But I learned from my regrets, and I moved forward. Which is what I'm hoping I can help all of you guys do. I told you these stories because I want you to see the importance of how you talk to yourself. Whether you say good things to yourself or bad things to yourself. Because sometimes the only good things you're going to hear about yourself throughout the day are the things that you tell yourself. Nobody else is going to push you to chase your dream. If you have somebody else who encourages you and pushes you to chase your dream, you are very, very lucky, and you need to appreciate that person because most people don't have that. So if you want it, you've got to push yourself. So now, I want you to ask yourselves this question. I want you to take a minute and really think about it before you answer. You may even want to write your answer down. But the question is this. What opportunities are you talking yourself out of that you should be talking yourself into? What jobs or careers have you talked yourself out of? What relationships have you talked yourself out of? What college courses are you talking yourself out of? What is it that you know you should be doing differently, but you allow that inner conversation to rationalize and make excuses and convince you that you shouldn't do it? And then, once you have that answer, once you have the answers to that question, I want you to do everything within your power to prove that inner conversation wrong. I want you to look at what you've talked yourself out of. Start talking yourself back in. It's all up to you.